Hello and welcome to the Supernatural track here at Continual. Tonight we are talking about favorite tropes in fan fiction, and I think we're going to have a lot to say. So before we dive into that very spirited discussion, I want to let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Anna.
Hi, I'm Anny Kensing. I started watching Supernatural in the early days in the first season in 2015 when the very first piece of fanfic came out, the day after the pilots aired. And I've dabbled in some fanfic myself, but I also write queer romance, mostly but not exclusively MM, and a lot of my characters are, well, anyway.
Okay.
I'm a big fan.
Tammy?
Hi, I'm Tammy. I'm Tammy Wren H on AO3. I both read and write about fan fiction, and I'm part of a podcast with Carole where we discuss fan fiction.
Very good. Carole?
I am Carole Stokes. I've been watching Supernatural since season 3, started writing fanfic in 2012. And along with Tammy, we co-host with one other the podcast on Spotify. So get this, The Lore of Supernatural Fan Fiction. As Ellis Colton, I am an MM romance author.
And Melissa.
Hi, I'm Melissa. This is Kitty. I've been a fan since the pilot aired in 2005. Kitty didn't join the fandom until 2020, but that's okay. She's here with us.
And I'm Gail Z. Martin, and Morgan Price. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But all my modern worlds are ones Sam and Dean could walk into and feel right at home. I fell in love with the show halfway through season 11, binge watched 11 seasons in 4 months for the start of season 12, and I have been a happily obsessed fan ever since. So there are so many wonderful tropes in Supernatural's fan fiction. And, there are over 250,000 stories just on AO3. And that's not counting what's on fanfiction.net or what was on Tumblr or what's on LiveJournal. So we are very rich in fandom stories. There's a little something for everybody and a lot of some things for some people. So there's plenty to choose from, but let's go around and each time give us maybe one or two of your favorite tropes and why. Anna?
Shit.
And that's why I love her.
Dang.
I mean, you would think that I would be prepared for this answer, right? Because this is the whole topic of our thing. I think my favorite trope is honestly it's plot or plot what plot. Like I just like I'm just here
PWP.
for the PWP.
And remember, on YouTube, we need to be spicy or extra spicy.
Yes. So I like the spicier side of the fanfic. I actually read more angst in fanfic than I do in commercial fiction. I don't really know why that is. Maybe it's just because the show is so angsty that the fanfic feels more accurate when it too is really angsty. And I like the kinkier side of the fanfics as well.
Okay. Tammy?
I like arranged marriages. I think that's a really fun fanfic trope, or even regular book trope, because they're going to fall in love. But the journey there is always very interesting, and there's usually a lot of pining and a lot of close moments, and almost before we get to the realization that it's actually a real marriage. So to me, that's just a really both as a writer and as a reader, really fun trope to explore. I'm doing an arranged marriage kind of trope right now, and I have probably a gazillion arranged marriage tropes. I'm reading a book about arranged marriage now, an M&M book. So yeah, it's just a really fun trope for me.
Okay, Carol.
There are always so many yummy ones. It's really hard to pick, but one of the ones I like a lot. See, right now I'm looking at a list and I'm like, which one do I pick?
Our list.
Yes, it is. I pulled up our list. I'm going to go with pretend boyfriend or slash husband, where one character needs, for whatever reason, to have somebody pretend to be his boyfriend or spouse. And so whether willingly or unwillingly, find someone to step into that role. And I kind of like the arranged marriage. At some point, one of them at least will realize, uh-oh, I'm really falling for this person. And then, of course, by the end of it, they will be in love and together. But you have that whole journey and the fun of the pretense. And then it's like, oh, how much is this pretense and how much is real? And that line gets really blurry as time goes on. So I really enjoy that one.
Okay, Melissa.
Once again, I did my homework wrong, so I'm just going to start with that. And I forgot to ask Carol for the cheat sheet, so double wrong for me. So I took this as AU and tropes, and so I wanted to start with a little bit about AU. My thing about AU is there's lots of them out there that I absolutely love, but the thing is, I don't care if it's dinosaur cowboys in space. I need Sam and Dean to still be Sam and Dean. Like, I still need enough of their core character to be visible in the story. And I don't care what the AU is, I don't care what the trope is. I need that essential thing that makes Sam and Dean to exist in the story. So you can take the AU all different kinds of ways, any way you want. I don't care. There has to be that core kernel of truth. Otherwise, to me, they're just paper dolls. And there's nothing wrong with paper dolls who look like Sam and Dean or Jared and Jensen. I don't care. But they're paper dolls, and those stories to me aren't interesting. And if I'm reading AU and it's like, da, 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 I'm like, wait a minute. They would never do that. Like, Dean would never sacrifice Sam for something. That's just not, that's against the core tenet of who he is. So I need that to be a piece of my fan fiction.
Okay. I am a sucker for her comfort. Just give me bleeding eyes and near-death moments and deathbed confessions and crazy, angsty Hail Mary passes to save somebody. Even though this is supernatural and nobody really stays dead. I just love her comfort. So yeah, just give me the boys, rough them up, have them angst over each other, lots of blood and lots of caring and sharing and chick flick moments. That's me. Anna, back to you.
I'm just going to point out that based on my research today, Hurt Comfort is sort of an established canonical tag on AO3 that isn't necessarily connected with any particular fandom. But if you look at it's pretty high up there in the number of tags that occur on the entire site. So there's approximately 915,000 Hurt Comfort tags used in stories, and Supernatural uses about 24,000 of them. So that's about 2.6% of the whole stories in Hurt Comfort on AO3 are Hurt Comfort. So that is definitely a popular thing. So yeah, I like Fix It Fix, I think, the most. I like when an episode ends wrong or a season ends wrong or something happens that I like it when the fanfic writer just makes it better. So I and also Fix It Fix are fairly high up in terms of the percentage of, you know, AO3 fix that are available. So like there's a bunch of official, like the tag wranglers on AO3 like make official tags, and then you can also add all the tags that you want. And a lot of the sub tags for fix under the category of Fix It are related to Supernatural because there's so much to fix.
Yeah, yeah. Tammy?
There's only one bed. I like There's Only One Bed. I like it because it's of the forced proximity where they have to be in close contact. So if they're already pining, they're already yearning, then he's right there on the other side of the bed. And, you know, sooner or later, things are going to happen. And it's fun to figure out, to see how other authors get them in the only one bed situation. It's fun as an author to figure out how I can get them in a only one bed situation. And it's just a lot of really fun territory to explore. So that's a trope that I really like.
Okay. Carol?
Actually, the first time I was reading Only One Bed was actually an NCIS fiction. So that's where I first saw it, and I was like, "Wow, that's interesting." And then I started seeing it in Supernatural as I dove more deeply into the Supernatural fan fiction. And I was like, "Wow, this is a thing." Who knew? Because it was in the early days when I didn't, know what about all the tropes and stuff like that. I'm going to go with a spicy one this time. And in the spicy one, I'm going to get exotic pollen that causes the victims to behave in a very unrestrained fashion.
Magic made them do.
Magic made them do it. So it could be pollen, and actually I can even be expanded to like, a spell or whatever, but particularly like the whole pollen and the whole fact that it's an imperative. This must happen or, bad things will occur. So that whole thing where it's almost not of their own choice, but in fact, it really is, because what it does is it forces them to get beyond their own inhibitions and reluctance to actually delve into the spicy side of their relationship. And oh, well, there they are. And that one is cool also because within that construct, there's just a myriad of ways it can happen and so on. So that one's really fun.
Okay. Melissa?
Unpopular opinion with this group, I think. I love the hurt, comfort, and the angst, and all that is great, but I also really enjoy those stories that are just a slice of life. Like there's not any huge, terrible obstacle to overcome. Everything is fine. We just get to see the characters enjoying their lives, enjoying each other, spending time together. I love those. I could not read a bunch of them back to back to back, but they're always this wonderful palate cleanser amongst all of the other torture, not torture, but all the other angst, hurt, comfort, all those things. It's nice to just have that little bite of, they're just happy, and, there's not a whole lot of drama. And it's great in fan fiction because you couldn't do that in commercial fiction, right? Because there has to be some conflict somewhere. But in fanfic, you can just write a page or two of, just a lovely day. They're having a picnic, whatever.
And I think the tag for that is tooth-rotting fluff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've seen it just as domestic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Domestic
it almost has its own subcategory of, you can have domestic, and another further iteration of that would be the curtain fic, where they've, for whatever reason have left hunting. And so now are setting up a domestic life, and watching them make that transition and embrace the almost reluctantly at first, but then happily, or even sometimes happily right away, to get into that domestic life is really yummy.
Yeah.
I'm going to say amnesia and closely related gin fix. Genie, DJINN, like what is and what should never be. I love when one of them, or sometimes both, don't remember who they are, and then they're still drawn together. They still kind of like in It's a Terrible Life, even when they're made to think that there's somebody else by the angels, they still end up fighting ghosts together. They still end up having each other's back. They still end up in a relationship and have a deep bond, because that's just who they are. And then, of course, all is revealed at the end. And with the gin fix, usually it's that one of them is terribly unhappy about what's going on. Maybe the other one is in purgatory or in hell, or as they often do, they're separated. And so when one of them gets caught by a djinn, they are transported to this ideal where they are together again and everything is fine and the relationship is good. And usually they have to get rescued from that before they just willingly let themselves waste away, because they think that, reality sucks and it's so much better in here, even if at least at one point they knew it wasn't real. And so then, the angst and the confessions and the heart to heart and the chick flick moments usually happen at that point. So it's kind of a double dose. Back to you, Anna.
Yeah, so along the same lines, I really like coda fics that are set after a particular episode. So I don't know, whatever, like pick an episode, because there's definitely going to be at least one fic after any episode. And so whatever's happened during the episode, they are in a particular season where they're not getting along very well, and they make up at the end of this episode in the fic, or they have reconciled during this episode because they've been having problems, and they celebrate the making up in fic or whatever. I wrote a coda episode in season 8. No, not 8. The season with the trials, right? For Closing the Gates of Hell. What was that?
Is that 9?
9, yes. Which 9, I don't like 9. Like 9 is actually a really bummer of a season, because they're so miserable. They're both so miserable at the beginning of it, right? Like Dean went to purgatory. Sam didn't rescue Dean from purgatory. He went off with a chick, and he abandoned his brother in purgatory and didn't look for him. And then they're like, finally they lie to each other for so much of the season, and then they are finally starting to rebuild the relationship. And so there was a particular, like, where Sam kills the hellhound, and I was like, I'm gonna write a coda to this episode, because we need to have something. We need to repair this relationship some way, and what better way than getting it on?
Okay, Tammy.
For Supernatural, I like Raised Apart. I like stories where Dean and Sam have been separated for some reason, and one of them is raised by John and one of them is raised by someone else. And it can be that they do know each other exist, but they just don't raise together, or they don't have no clue. Dean has no clue there's a Sam out there. Sam has no clue there's a Dean out there. And then they meet and maybe fall in love, and oops, we're brothers. So to me, that's a whole lot of fascinating, and also how different of a person they would be if, for the one that's not raised by John, like how different Dean would be if he was not raised in that environment, how different Sam would be if he was free to live the life he thought he wanted all of this time with the picket fence and all of that. So it is sort of, you can get into taste of how their environment sort of formatted who they are and who they turn out to be, and also just the angst of when they get together and finding out at some period in time that they're actually related, very closely related, that they're brothers. And so it's to me just a really fun trope to explore, both as a reader and a writer.
Well, and not only how they are different because of not being raised as in the show, but how they are essentially the same, and what really wasn't a product of their upbringing, but that's just a core piece of their personality, and they're still recognizable despite that. Yeah, and that comes through in a lot of stories. Carole?
Soulmates. Love me some soulmates. And love that, this actually became a canon moment. I mean, to build on after that. Generally, at some point, there's a struggle of some kind of obstacle or strife or whatever, and maybe one of them needs to rescue the other one, and in order to do that has to use that soulmate bond, or they find out that they are really soulmates in every sense of the word, or find out what does that really mean to be a soulmate. They got told that they were, but like, what did that mean, and what were the ramifications of it, and how does it play out in their relationship? So for being a somewhat fairly focused aspect, it has a great tendency to still kind of branch out to a lot of really lovely places. And sometimes they can even fight the fact that they're soulmates, but you know what? You can't fight it all the way because you're soulmates. So that's a really delightful one that I always enjoy.
Well, and sometimes also because they've got to do something desperate to save the other, there's also the possibility of creating some sort of spell or some sort of magic that if the soul bond wasn't there in a literal sense before, now they are sharing a soul or something like that. So that's an interesting take on that soulmate piece as well. Melissa?
I've written that myself.
I have indeed, and I've read it.
The Richchesters. We don't see enough in fiction of AU Richie Rich Sam and Dean. I need more of that. I need hello writers. I need more of that. I need a lot more of that because it's such an I could have had a whole season of the four of them just doing stuff, taking it on the road, hunting monsters. That would have been hilarious. I need more of the Richchesters, please. That's all.
Okay, so I haven't done very much like about the Richchesters living their AU life, but I did do a very short story where the Richchesters experienced baby for the first time together.
And it was delightful, let me tell you. That was a great little
Can
story.
somebody please send me that link after the panel? I need that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I've only dabbled with them a couple of times. Once where I sent them to, because they left and they went to South America. So I wrote a little story in South America.
You wrote the story with them in the restaurant, didn't you? That was yours.
It was so good. So good. Yes.
Yeah.
I need more like that.
I will put that on my list.
Thank you.
I love, and I have to be in the right mood for it. And it also depends on how it's written, because sometimes they go way too dark, and that's not for me. But when we get to explore the Boy King concept, or Soulless Sam and Demon Dean and Mark of Cain Dean, especially if you have Soulless Sam and Demon Dean teaming up, or if you have Sam embracing the Boy King heritage to march into hell and bring his brother out, which may have been one of the things they had considered for season 3 before the writer's strike. But I've read some good stuff there where Sam says, well, screw all this. I'm just going to go get him myself. You want me to be the Boy King? Okay, I'm the Boy King. Give me my brother back. Or I will smite all of you. And, Bamf Sam. And it's also fun to kind of see, again, if it doesn't go too far into serial killer territory, the whole Soulless Sam, Demon Dean, what would these two relentless monster hunters be like together? And how would they not end up killing each other? So that sometimes makes for some very interesting fiction. Back to you, Anna.
Okay, so I think it's really interesting that to I like both, and I can't decide at any given moment. It just depends on my mood, I suppose, whether I'm looking for established relationship or first time. And I think that we as a fandom are a big fan of each of these. I these two tropes and their various subtropes rank pretty high in terms of the presence in our fandom. There's a lot of established relationship, established relationship and first time is used as a tag in just a lot of fics, but there are 17 supernatural related official subtags under the category of established relationship. And they're like established all characters, right? Established Castiel and Dean, established Gabriel and Sam, established Dean and Sam, established everybody together, right? And same thing with first time. There's 15 official subtags under first time. 6 of them are related to supernatural. So
Just saying.
we like our first time fix, I think, and so do I.
Okay.
I think it's interesting to see how the characters get together with first time. Like, to me, it's not necessarily the porn, although that could be really interesting, but it's seeing what made the two characters take that step.
Right?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt,
Yeah.
Tammy.
Yeah, right. And so but either it's first time is when they're younger, or first time is way later in the season. Like I find this really interesting that our wonderful fanfic writers have provided us with this spectrum of how the first time might be before Sam goes off to college, or it might be in season 15, right? And who knows? And the same with any other pairings in terms of sort of like how it's possibly clear what pairings this panel prefers, but there are plenty of pairings in Supernatural and plenty of opportunities for both first time relationships and established relationships.
I've even read, and of course this can only happen in a show like Supernatural, where the first time is after they're both dead.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's called heaven for a reason.
In heaven, yeah.
It's called heaven for a reason.
Tammy?
Yes.
And I will say on the first time that I do an offer where I say, if you want to fit for your birthday, send me what you like, and I will try to write as much as within my talent range what to your likes. And first time is a huge thing. I get it over and over again that they want first time. So that's, for readers, that's a really huge trope that they really, really love. And so it's like, oh my God, how am I going to get them together for the first time again?
The scope is just so huge because it's
it is. There's
anything and everything.
So many possibilities. I'm gonna go trapped, like trapped in an elevator, trapped anywhere, especially Sam and Dean, because Sam and Dean have a tiny communication issue sometimes where they don't really say what they mean to say, and they don't tell the other what is really wrong. So you get them trapped somewhere where they have no way of getting out, and all of this stuff can come out. And it can be sexy times too, but I like angst. So I like it when they are trapped together and there's no way to get out, and the secrets sort of spill out, because those boys really need to work on their communication skills, and sometimes you just got to trap them in order for that to happen.
This is true. Carole?
This is probably more of an AU thing. Oh gosh, now I don't even know. Are we doing AUs yet?
Absolutely, we totally can.
Okay. I like AUs where the world itself is different, and they play different roles in it. Maybe Dean has a bakery coffee shop. Maybe Sam and Dean are on opposite sides of the law. Maybe Sam stayed with John and Dean went to college. So I like playing and reading about other people playing with that construct, but yet within it, at the core, we still have Sam and Dean, like as Gail was saying at the beginning, or who was saying, Melissa was saying, sorry, Melissa. Melissa was saying in the beginning that they're still Sam and Dean. They're still recognizable, and they still have the qualities and character traits that convey to us that they're Sam and Dean. So we're not completely erasing their personality and their raison d'etres, but it's completely reframed in this different way. And that almost kind of frees up a whole new way of exploring that dynamic and that relationship, because it's not dealing necessarily with monsters trying to kill them. Maybe it's like these other outside threats and things like that, that it's really fun to read just in terms of the variety that's out there. It's really fun to write because of the variety you can play with. And yet you're still involved in that core bond, between them.
Okay. Melissa.
It would not be me on a supernatural panel if I did not mention John Winchester's A+ parenting. That is one of my favorite tropes, because I would love to meet JDM and tell him how much I loved how he was the perfect villain in this story. Because to me, Chuck was maybe worse, but only maybe. I love John's character. He was complex, but John Winchester's A+ parenting, that is my favorite thing in the world to read, because there are so many different ways that writers shade that, from the truly horrific so that John is completely unrecognizable. And those are amusing to me, because it's like, okay, look, you took it too far. Even I won't go that far. To all of the different things that writers will pluck out of the actual story and expand just a little bit. So it takes John from being a jerk and mild things like that to being actually a really terrible guy. But they've plucked the things out of the story, out of canon, and with just a little bit of nudge, you get a John that is like, yeah, I could absolutely believe John did that. Absolutely 100%. I love those stories. They're one of my favorites to read.
Okay. I'm going to go again with AU, time travel. Whether it's that they went back to the Frontierland time and didn't make it back, whether they ended up in the 1950s to try to stop Abaddon from killing the men of letters and then didn't make it back, or all ended up with Elliot Ness in the 1930s. I love some of the fics that take the time travel experiences that we saw in canon and then said, well, what if, let's just keep writing stories for them like they stayed here. And that gives us some fun insights into the characters, and that brings out different opportunities for them because of the time period. And you can still have that essential Sam and Dean relationship. It's just they're cowboys, or they're
moonshiners,
untouchables, or moonshiners. Maybe they're running from Elliot Ness. Yes, all of them. They're vampires. Yeah, I love all of those. Anna?
If they're cowboys, is Dean wearing a serape?
He's a posse magnet. We know this.
The posse magnet.
I'm sorry, Anna.
So that is canon.
100%.
I would love to know how many times it took them to film that.
Oh my god! I think if they didn't catch it on the first take, then they just had to take the best of like 30.
Well, and I think it's also funny, especially with that episode, with both boys being from Texas, who know darn well, authentic cowboy outfits. And then Dean walks in looking like a bad Clint Eastwood movie. So, yeah.
I'm proud of it.
I'm proud of it. Very proud of Anna?
So I don't think that we can talk about favorite fanfic tropes in Supernatural without talking about ABO. It's not really my thing, but it originated, I think, basically in Supernatural. And so, and it's a hugely popular trope. Subgenre, maybe more than like super trope subgenre. There's just so many variations of the ABO dynamic in Supernatural, explored between the relationships. There's so many subtags under the ABO tag in AO3 that are Supernatural related. Every single character has an alpha or an omega designation, depending on the writer's perspective. Every single character, name a character, they are an alpha or an omega or both. So I don't think that we can conclude this panel without talking about this as a popularity in terms of the trope. So way to go, Supernatural fanfic, for creating a hugely popular subgenre trope in the fanfic universe, and then also allowing that to expand into commercial fiction.
Yeah. It was the world can thank Supernatural fan fiction for that.
Yep.
It's so big. We did on our podcast, we actually did a specific episode just on that. And then we have to still record part 2 because there was so much. Yeah. We didn't even talk about all of it. So yeah.
Annie, how about you?
It's huge.
Crossovers. Put Dean and Sam in some other world, because that's just a lot of fun. I've seen them in Doctor Who, in Harry Potter, in you name it, Firefly, because Dean makes a heck of a space pirate. So he really fits very well in that world. But it's Buffy. It just put them in a different environment and put them in this world that's not their world, and see how they adjust and figure out a way to thrive, because our boys are always going to figure out how to thrive and save the day. That's why we love them so much. There might be little angst in them, some bumps along the way, but they're going to figure it out. And to me, that I haven't really explored it much as a writer, maybe someday, but as a reader, I have read lots of it, and I really enjoy reading it. And I even read like Stargate ones when I've never seen that show. I have no idea who those people are, but it's just fun to read.
And let's also make sure we mention the crossovers within the projects that the boys have been in. So there's, the Soldier Boy and the Supernatural. There's the Cordell Walker and the Supernatural. There's the Boaz and the Supernatural. Seeing them from all those different roles they've been in crossing over is fun too, and seeing how people have imagined that.
I saw a really amazing fic that involved Kale Sam from the
God bless
episode
Kale.
with the Pearl, who was an attorney at Wolfram and Hart in Angel.
Oh wow!
Stellar.
I want to read that one.
I also wrote a crossover fanfic with Supernatural and Flowers in the Attic,
and it's so
good.
It is just wonderful.
Carol, quit bogarting the links, please.
Carol?
Well, I mean, the crossover thing is just amazing. Sometimes it's not even that they have to adjust to being in that world. It's a matter of that just is their world, and so how do we get those things to mesh? I've read fantastic case fics really lend themselves to this, because then you can have so many cases where they overlap. So I've read fantastic Supernatural and NCIS, a couple of really great ones. I've had an idea for an NCIS Supernatural crossover for like 8 years, and I haven't written it yet.
This is a good year.
Well, there you go. It is. But like I wrote one with White Collar, because it was a cursed jewel. So there's these great little nexus points where Sam and Dean are doing their thing, and aha, here they run into these people, or the other people are like, do. Oh, look, now we ran into Sam and Dean, and they're like, well, who are these guys? Oh, they're not feds. And they go through the whole discovery of like, what is happening here? And it's just, again, a terrific way to see the relationship anew, and it's just super fun. You have all these characters, whether you know them or not. Like Tammy said, I've read stories where I didn't know those characters, but got to know them simply through that fic.
An Amazing Race one that I just read.
Like, what?
The Amazing Race one was
Race
good.
one that I just read, where they put them in that world, and I never seen the show, but they
it's a super great playground. And it lends itself to another trope, which is outside POV, outside point of view. I adore outside point of view, where the whole story is told through not Sam or Dean's point of view at all, but somebody completely separate. Sometimes it's somebody who does know them, like maybe Bobby or something like that. But other times it's like, hey, it's a hotel maid, or hey, they went to do a case and it's somebody, works at the diner, or something like that, where it's like we see a world, and then Sam and Dean kind of walk onto the set and do their thing. And the person who's watching everything transpire is like, first of all, wow, they're really good looking. But then like, oh, what are they? Oh, wait, what are they doing? And that is just, man, an outside point of view is well done, is mwah.
Okay. Melissa?
I'm gonna piggyback first on something Carole said about crossovers. Crossovers really aren't my thing. I don't, generally speaking, like them, but I really need a crossover of Sam and Dean in the universe of The Walking Dead where they meet Negan. Because
I think that guy looks so much like Dad.
Yeah, right. And it could even be like early Negan before he becomes Negan. Like maybe right after his wife died or something. Like there's room there, and I was just like, why didn't nobody ever write this?
I'm sure somebody has. I'm sure somebody has written that.
Surely.
Oh, doesn't that chick remind you of Bella?
I never even thought of Bella. See, now I really need that fic. I really, really need that fic. Maybe the guys are in New York City after. All right, let me stop. Derail my own train of thought. I really love AUs where the guys aren't doing their stereotypical professions. Like Dean is not a chef or a short order cook or a mechanic, and Sam is not like a lawyer or a law clerk or a professor. Like I like seeing inventive other options for them for careers, but not where they're so, it goes back to that whole, you have to keep that core of Sam and Dean. I can't take them too far out. So I really love when authors will find different careers for the guys that still, when you look at it, you go, oh yeah, I could absolutely see Sam doing that for a living. I love that.
Yeah, I'm going to go with monster fic. Now, this is where one or both of the boys have been turned into a vampire or a werewolf. Bonus if there's hurt, comfort, and angst involved because, Sam's been turned into a vampire, and well, Dean's just not going to kill him. He's going to let Sam turn him into a vampire. But Sam, of course, has angst about turning Dean into a vampire or whatever. There's that whole process. Or, there are a number of werewolf fics where this sort of thing happens, and it's we're together and we're staying together, and I don't care what kind of creature we've become, but I'm not leaving you. And so those are great, not only for the hurt comfort, but for kind of seeing them sometimes adapt to, well, how are we going to be vampires? And that adds a lot of complexity. There's an excellent story where Dean agrees to Doc Benton's elixir that would keep them alive forever, but they have to keep finding new parts as, pieces of the body wear down. And it's a number of years on. And they have, of course, both signed on to this so that they are both immortal. But there are complications because you got to keep finding the source material. So, yeah. Well, folks, we have blown through our time. I think we could talk about this all night. It would be so much fun. But we are at the top of our hour. So let's go around real quick and let everybody know where we can find you online, starting with Anna.
You can find me basically annykensing.com and some variation of that on most social media accounts, although my participation in them waxes and wanes depending on how much I'm procrastinating writing. And on AO3, I am A Kensing.
Okay, Tammy.
I am Tammy _Brian on Twitter. I know it's called something else now, but we'll go with Twitter. And Tammy Wren H on AO3.
All right, Carole.
I'm on Facebook on Continual and the TFWNC group as Fire Sign 10. All of my fan fictions on AO3, mind the tags. And as Ellis Colton, you can just go to my Facebook page and all of my social media links under that name are there, including the link to my book on Amazon, Prescription for Love.
Okay, Melissa.
Find me here and English, not my first language today. I majored in gibberish in college. You can find Kitty and I here talking about Supernatural. You can find me on Twitter, Tin Hat Daydreams, RPF, very short conversation-based fiction. Mind the profile.
And I'm pretty easy to find at gailzmartin.com, morganbryce.com. I'm on all the social medias as one or both of those names. So if you spell them right, you'll find me. I do run the Supernatural TFWNC Facebook group, and I'm a columnist for the Winchester Family Business blog, but mostly you can find me here on Continual. So thank you so much for a fantastic discussion. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more Supernatural coming up soon. So we'll see you online.